My name is Linda Alela and this is Morning Cafe right here on TV 47. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47 KE. As always, it's about the papers and then the stories of the day and to very, very important conversations. And being a Wednesday, we're going to hit the kitchen and a little bit different. For the very first time, we bake a cake. You know, you perhaps have been enjoying this red velvet but never known how best to prepare it. This is the moment for you, but that is towards the last hour of the program. Before then, we'll be deciphering on what is happening in the country politically, taking a look at the events of the day in terms of matters, education, and so much more. And therefore, as we do this, we ask that you're part and parcel of the conversation. Once again, the hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47 KE. The program is Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela. The Standard newspaper, the People Daily, and the Daily Nation are the papers that we have this morning. And so as we take a look at them, it's important that we get to know what is playing out in terms of news, what the papers detail. We're speaking matters corruption. We're speaking about just how many cases have been dropped and so much more. And of course, they speak of where 15 billion graft tax cases hot air. These are the questions that are being asked and pertaining to the faces that we have seen being let off the hook by the DPP. Well, questions. The DPP says charges were dropped for failing threshold test of prosecution, and this has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Director of Public Prosecution Nordin Haji is a man on the spot, as they would call him. He has presided over the withdrawal of several cases touching on top business people and government officials who are facing multi-million shilling corruption and tax evasion charges. And the suspect tried witch hunt by the former regime. Was this the case, or have Kenyans lost their money? This is captured on page 4 and 5, and we're looking at the faces of one amongst the top most offices in the office, that is Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, the likes of Aisha Jumwa sitting in the executive. We're seeing the faces of Samuel Geshuru and, of course, Chris Okemo and many other faces that we see right here. Just what informs this is a question many have been asking, but as it is by the day, we see some of these cases continue to be dropped. And we just ask ourselves just how genuine then this whole matter is. We can only wait to see what then will be the ultimate answers. Away from it, the focus on service delivery, President Uhuru Kenyatta, or former President Uhuru Kenyatta, tells Ruto as he mourns Magoha, that is focus on service delivery as opposed to bicker around, just, do not talk much, as the former president would say. Let us see what it is that you intend to do, what it is that you do, to the people of Kenya action-wise. And Chebukati to Raila, produce a video or I'll sue you. Well, former electoral agency chairperson Wafula Chebukati has written to Azimio la Umoja coalition leader Raila Odinga, that is through his lawyer, that of course demanding that he should present, facts as to what it is that he has said. And Mr. Chebukati says that should Mr. Odinga fail to provide the video footage within 7 days, then he will take legal action against him. This is captured on page 8. Away from it, on a proposal by the parliamentarians, showdown looms in Parliament of a house plan for CSS. And of course, whereas the president and his allies are proposing to amend the standing orders, that is to allow CSs to answer questions, opposition members of parliament say the constitution must be changed for this to happen. This is captured on the back page of the Daily Nation. And equally on the back page, there's so much of sporty action there. For lovers of sport, you can always grab a copy and you get the updates and fixtures, if any, as pertaining to your favorite game. And Pope Francis starts Central Africa tour. Yes, the Pope Francis, embarked on his 5th visit to Africa Tuesday, flying to the Democratic Republic of Congo and the South Sudan to plead for peace in these two nations. And therefore, we focus to follow up to see just what he seeks to achieve and how much the visit of the Pope then will be instrumental to addressing the animosities that we've seen in these very African countries, and of course South Sudan being the youngest nation that has not seen peace right from the time where there was that aspect of cessation and what then you would call independence for them. The Standard newspaper And the front page of the Standard newspaper, teachers storm employer's office, that is to seek transfers. Teachers storm employer's office to seek transfers. A story captured on page 9 of the Standard newspaper, of course on the front page as well, as pertaining to the question of education. We have seen very many teachers being transferred, and especially head teachers for that matter, also on the conversation of delocalization that really did not augur well for many. So more than 200 teachers stormed TSC offices. And of course, they're demanding their transfers. Tutors say delocalization has brought them suffering, citing family breakups, and many of them are actually seeking transfers to save their marriages. That also is captured and is a very important conversation that has been there for quite a long time now. And not forgetting what has been captured on this other side. Uhuru jibe at Kenya Kwanza, and he talked less, says we need to talk less and perform more. And defending his record, the former president eulogizes Magoha as a single-minded leader, and equally says that many of the people who opposed some drastic changes that his government was implementing will in future come to appreciate that he worked for the good of the country. A story captured on page 10 of the Standard newspaper. Politics of tax suck in the mighty. Issues of tax have been a part of Kenya's political discourse now this since independence, and if it is not the incumbent president extorting Kenyans to pay their fair share, it has been politicians then crying foul over weaponization of the instrument by Kerry to silence the critics. And now it is the country's big three fighting it out. A story captured on page 4. Just who are the big three? President William Ruto, former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Just where does this take us as a nation? Just how much then does the government achieve in this focus of making sure that Kenyans pay tax to the very last coin? Well, as they would say, it's important to give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And this, as they would say, it is for the benefit of the nation, just so we'd be able to save, we'd be able to run away from international debt and generally debt. As well, we'll have Kenyans having their money put to, make sure that they get to enjoy the best of development. Junior secondary kicks off amid anxiety. That is a story also captured on the front page, expounded on page 8, and grade 7 learners are beginning to settle down in their new classes, and of course with many schools reporting high turnout. However, most of the parents were yet to buy out their uniforms for the junior secondary level and conform to the new guidelines issued by the Ministry of Education. That one is a story that is developing. We'll be having Andreen as well as Sharon Baranga following up to give us updates on what to expect and just how our students are adjusting. We dropped the Standard newspaper as well and take a look at what the People Daily says on this very first day of February 2023, as many would be excited that finally January is over. But just what is this about January? Why is it that it's so hard for people to plan themselves in advance so that we don't always cry foul of January? Raila Chebukati locked in a fresh row, and the former IEBC chairperson demands that Azimio leader proves the graft allegations against him as Raila calls for a return to manual voting system. A story captured on page 2 of the People Daily. We'll be discussing this culminating from the rallies that we have witnessed conducted by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his allies, and the conversation pertaining to what really needs to be done for the country to forge forward. That is as to the question of elections, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga maintaining that they will not accept the win or the presidency of William Ruto, arguing that it was a flawed process and that Chebukati and the other commissioners were compromised. Digital first as Ruto cabinet holds a paperless meeting. A story captured on the front page and equally expounded on page 2. That is upon that sitting by the cabinet. And of course, these members of the cabinet are focusing so much so on addressing the key matters, that their dockets then would hold, looking at what was discussed yesterday. ICT and just how best digitization is to be done in the country is one of the key things that was spoken about. The question of agriculture, the question of the economy, the question of health, Those were the key factors that were looked into just so we could drive the country to the right direction, and therefore we seek to see how best then these CSs or these ministers will help steer the government to the right direction and the country at large. Keroche in new 14 billion tax dispute, and DPP says that alcohol farm senator and husband failed to pay for 2015 to 2019 tax. Again, this is not new. The other time, there was this allegation that this was, politically motivated or political witch hunt. Let's wait to see how different then the conversation will be now that we have the Lady of Keroche and, as the Senate, and as well part and parcel of the Kenya Kwanza government having been voted in through the UDA party. And Uhuru defends Jubilee record as well. That is one of the key things that we'll be looking at, confronting his critics. Retired president hits out at current leadership and noisemakers for constantly finding fault with his legacy. That is including the competency-based curriculum. And Pope visits Africa with message of peace. That also we have touched on. It's a story expounded on page 5 as we look forward to more that comes from the man of God. Let's drop the papers and take a look at the stories that we have this morning. And former President Uhuru Kenyatta has denied allegations that he is funding Azimio rallies and criticized the Kenya Kwanza government for making such claims. President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza coalition has been saying that a group of elites favored by the previous administration has been funding the rallies as a tactic to avoid paying taxes.
Even before the dust settles on the recent remarks made by President William Ruto on the return of Azimio rallies, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has taken a strong stance against allegations made by the Kenya Kwanza government that he is funding the rallies.
Even if they sponsor demonstrations so that they don't pay tax, I want to promise them they will pay tax.
Hii watu wanapiga mdomo, wacha wapige bana. Unajua mtu ambaye hana kitu kingine ya kufanya lazima apige mdomo. Wacha wapige mdomo.
President William Ruto has in the recent past accused Raila and his allies in the Azimio camp of resorting to demonstrations in a bid to avoid paying taxes. Ruto argued that those who used to exempt themselves from paying taxes through government instruments are now sponsoring demonstrations, maintaining that the government will not be intimidated into exempting a section of elites from paying taxes.
The good people who are used to exempting themselves from paying tax, their day is up. Every citizen must pay tax.
In his rejoinder on the attacks, former President Uhuru Kenyatta dismissed the ruling government's attempts to target his family and called into question the motivations behind the allegations of tax evasion.
There are people who talk a lot about what they will do and do nothing. And those are many.
However, recent allegations against former President Uhuru Kenyatta have elicited mixed reactions. Former Nyeri Town Member of Parliament and once a staunch supporter of Azimio leader Raila Odinga suggests that the tax evasion narrative could be a push for Uhuru to declare his stance in the Azimio coalition politics.
So I think when I listened to Kenya Kwanza politicians attacking the former president, what I felt was they were playing politics. They are trying to they're trying to do two things. At first, they're trying to get the former president to come out and denounce what Raila is doing. Because you see, if I make an accusation that you are involved, then I'm challenging you to come out and say, no, I'm not. Because once you say that, then you have pulled me into the politics. Now you've made me take a side. So there's a very strong push for Uhuru to take a side.
In a letter addressed to Kenya Revenue Authority, Nyandarua County Senator John Medhu wants KRA to audit 4 businesses owned by the Kenyatta family, that is the NCBA Bank, Brookside Dairy Limited, NK Investments, and the alleged buying of the 5G spectrum license. Flora Limuki, TV 47.
Now, former IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati has threatened to take legal action against Azimio coalition party leader Raila Odinga if he fails to produce a CCTV footage showing his visit to Odinga as alleged, that is before announcing the 2022 presidential election results. In a letter dated 31st January, Chebukati, through his lawyers Steve Ogola, wants Raila to release the video footage within 7 days. This as Raila, who is in Nigeria, sustained his election rigging narrative.
In what is likely to trigger a legal and political battle over the 2022 presidential election results fallout, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga's remarks at Jacaranda grounds on Sunday that IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati and two other commissioners, Moya Bolu and Professor Abdi Gulie, paid him a visit could land him in court after the former IEBC chair threatened to take legal action against Odinga. Chebukati, through his lawyer Steve Ogola, in a letter dated January 31st and addressed to Odinga, wants the opposition leader to produce the video recording of the alleged visit within 7 days, failure to which the former chair of the electoral body will go to court.
Bwana Chebukati anasema ati kuna watu walikuwa wanataka kuonga yeye. Hata wale wenzake si Bwana Gulie na Bwana Bolu. Nataka niwaulize hao, mlienda kwa jumba ya baba kufanya nini? Polisi baba walikuja kwangu kufanya nini? Waliniomba nini? Waliomba nini? Wajua kama mimi niko na picha yao.
The letter denies Chebukati paid Odinga a visit during the electioneering period. The letter further faults Odinga for spreading false and malicious information that has and continues to inflict serious reputational injury on Chebukati. Odinga, who is away in Nigeria for an election conference, continued to hammer IEBC for presiding over an alleged bungled election, while calling for return of the country's old manual voting system instead of the current system that uses technology.
There's need to rethink the use of technology. Either we adopt a reliable election technology, including voting machines, and generate a voter verifiable audit trail, so voters can confirm that their choices are being recorded accurately, or we go fully manual. Kenya has become a laboratory for bad election practices that others borrow around the continent.
President Ruto has also hit out at Odinga over his Jacaranda remarks, questioning why he never took the video evidence to the Supreme Court and what was Chebukati doing in a house owned by a presidential candidate. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Still on matters politics, a retired President Uhuru Kenyatta led a team of former cabinet members to condole with former Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Magoha's family at his home in Lavington this evening, as preparations for public viewing set to begin are underway.
A week after the death of Professor George Magoha, his former boss Uhuru Kenyatta and former colleagues made their way to his home in Lavington, where they condoled with his family led by his wife Dr. Barbara Odudu Magoha and his son Michael Magoha. The former head of state Uhuru Kenyatta, who was also accompanied by former First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, eulogized Magoha as an honest, hands-on public servant and the best fit for an education boss.
Professor used to go and ensure where are the exams being printed, supervising it, not sending officers, supervising it himself personally. How are they being packed? Supervising it himself personally. How are they being shipped? Himself. When they land in Kenya, where they are.
His colleague, who was also once his boss at the Ministry of Education, while Magoha headed the Kenya National Examination Council, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, also termed the deceased as a man of integrity, crediting him with the implementation of the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS. Other former CSS also described him as tough-talking and firm in all his decisions, promising to stand with the family and continue with Magoha's philanthropy.
This is Professor for you. I am sure everyone here has a story. All we can do, dear family, is to ask you to allow Professor go, to allow him to rest in peace, and for all of us to commit support to you.
Public viewing of Magoha's body is expected to commence tomorrow, as earlier communication from the government indicated that his body will be taken to all places that were significant to him, including the headquarters of the Ministry of Education at Jogoo House and the University of Nairobi. Sylvia Nyongesa, TV47.
Now, tension is high at Nakuse and Lokwar areas of Turkana South sub-county after bandits allegedly from the neighboring West Pokot County entered the Kaputir village and burned several houses and schools. This comes a few days after Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki visited Turkana County. A reporter from Turkana, Kitio Mika Masai, has more details on that.
The insecurity situation in Turkana South sub-county, especially in Nakuse and Lokwar villages, is worsening. The latest incident seeing suspected armed bandits say to be from neighboring West Pokot County invaded this area and burning into ashes both schools and houses.
Zizi hatujui penye tunaenda. Na hawa watu wenye wanabeba misigo hawa, watuelewi wanaenda wapi na wataenda kuishi kwa nani?
Vitabu vya CBC zote zimeenda. Sijui sasa itakuwa namna gani, serikali itafanya namna gani.
Residents here are fleeing their homes to relative safer areas, with the students failing to go back to school due to the current security situation in the area.
Ni jirani mwema kweli. Nataka serikali niambie hawa akuja arudishe, kama ni watu wake arudishe mali walikuwa.
Serikali iko na apparatus. Sasa sisi tunaomba wakati huu tuambiwe, kwa sababu tumeomba, kuimba tumeimba tukilia. Sasa tungependa tu tuambiwe tujue hatima yetu.
Wanafunzi hawa watu ama watoto hawa watu wanaenda shule kweli? Kama wanaweza kuja kufanya mambo kama haya ya kuchoma shule, ya kupiga watu risasi, na pia wamechoma hata kijiji.
Few days after Minister of Internal Security Professor Kithure Kindiki visited Turkana County, residents here have asked him to camp in this area since it's the hotspot of attack.
Professor Kindiki amekuwa juzi hapa Turkana. Badala kukuja mahali inaadhirika, anaenda mahali kuna amani at least. Na hapa kuna maneno mabaya machafu inafanyika na hata zinaendelea. Na mimi najua hata mahali yako anajua kuna kitu inaendelea Turkana South, especially Kaptiri Ward.
However, Turkana County Commissioner Jacob Ouma has assured the local security will be beefed up, saying more officers have been sent to those areas to settle and calm the situation.
Ninapozungumza saa hii, vikundi vyetu vyote vya GSU, kikosi cha ASTU, askari wako kwa pale na watakaa pale na hiyo kazi itafanya. Na tutafanya hiyo kazi bila huruma yoyote.
Kitio Mika Masai reporting for TV47 from Turkana South Sub-County.
And parents of grade 7 students in private schools are requesting the government to provide them with capitation funds similar to those provided to public schools. They argue that the current economic situation is affecting them as well.
It is day 2 of registration of grade 7 learners to junior secondary schools. The process began on Monday and some of them have already begun their classes, especially those in private schools. However, parents to learners in private schools want the government to send them capitation funds as they are providing for those in public schools.
In public schools, capitation is particularly the pupils are actually given 15,000. That is the ministry gives 15,000 per pupil. It is not actually the case in the private schools, and we feel it is actually high time the government leveled that ground area, so that those also in private primary, schools are also able to benefit from the same, of course, gesture. Given that we are operating in the same economic environment.
Currently, those who are sitting for KCP, the KIPSEA, the KCSE, whether they're in public or a private school, they don't pay registration fee. And my feeling was, if the same can be extended also to the capitation, we shall have a chance to reduce maybe the fee of our parents by almost 30 to 40%.
Infrastructure and lack of human resources, especially teachers, however, remains a big challenge in most schools, despite the government promising to send at least one teacher per junior secondary class, especially in public schools.
For us, especially who are boarding, there was a mention of that primary schools and junior secondary schools will be there. and that caused a bit of what we had prepared to do in terms of constructing the laboratories and the new dormitories for the kids. That was actually, we found ourselves behind schedule. So that was one of the challenges. The other challenge, of course, is parents being skeptical of whether they should bring their kids over or they should continue having them in day school. Because
challenges for us, we have the facilities, but for the lab section, that one we have agreed with Muranga High School. They are going to provide us with the facility, and we have done the agreement.
As the grade 7 learners embark on a new chapter in their academic journey, they are hopeful that the competency-based curriculum will shape their career lives for the better.
And I love this school because, one, I can be an architect. Like, my dream is to be that.
Expectations for the exam is to excel in my studies, and also I joined because the teachers are friendly. You can pursue your dream in the future, like to be a pilot, footballer.
Sante Bwana PS. Education PS was in Arap Moi Primary School in Kajiado County, where he supervised the registration of grade 7 learners as well as distributed books.
We are telling the schools they should not have a predetermined dealer. They should allow the children and the parents to go and get uniforms wherever the parent will get a good price. So hii mambo ya monopolistic ways of engaging ourselves and sending parents to specific places are not acceptable.
The government is providing textbooks to be used by grade 7 learners in all public schools. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Still on matters education, the government's directive that learners should not be subjected to long hours of study at school has elicited mixed reactions. The move to have learners conduct their studies between 8 a.m. and 3:45 p.m. has been praised and criticized in equal measure by education stakeholders. And as Andrin Kilemi reports, psychologists say sleep deficiency increasingly affects children's mental ability to concentrate as well as their growth.
The normal school day should start from 8 a.m. up to 3:45 p.m.
These sentiments by Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu have elicited mixed reactions among education stakeholders, with a section praising the government for its decision to have lessons conducted between 8 a.m. to 3:45 p.m.
We do not need to turn children into robots. Because when you have classes beginning, say, 6 in the morning, and then going on up to 9 in the night, or sometimes beyond, first several things happen. One, these children are fatigued all the time. So they're just being pushed and pushed and pushed, and not being allowed to use their time to relax in school after classes, to do their own organized study, which they can actually do.
How do we reduce the overload so that the child can be able to perform and be able to excel?
Educationists say apart from mentally and physically suppressing learners, classes that run before dawn and after dusk also affect teachers as they have no sufficient time to bond with their families.
We also strain some of those teachers because this is usually a program of the principal, insisting that we want certain grades, and so to achieve those grades, teachers will have to stay in class. These teachers are also parents. What is happening to their own children when they are in school 14, 15 hours in a day? They need to be parenting as well. They need to be preparing schemes of work and preparing for lessons for the next day.
A section of parents has, however, expressed its dissatisfaction with the government's move, saying learners who stay away from class for long hours end up engaging in unruly behavior.
Sababu wanafunzi wakiamka saa 2, mwalimu ataamka saa ngapi?
Sasa sielewi vile anataka watoto wakae. Sijui kama ako na mpango ya kusaidia watoto mbele, kwa sababu hiyo ni njia nyingine ya kutuambia watoto wetu wabaki tu penye walikuwa.
Lack of enough sleep, according to psychologists, however, could lead to chronic health problems, further affecting the children's mental ability to concentrate in class.
Manake ubongo hapo ndio unaweza kudevelop, unakomaa. Usipokomaa kutakuwa na yale tunaweza sema madoadoa ama kutakuwa na upungufu fulani.
This comes at the backdrop of major education reforms as the first junior secondary school students begin their studies this week. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
It is now emerging that many of the 2022 KCPE candidates from Wajir County risk failing to join secondary schools due to poverty. Our reporter Hashim Jamal interacted with some families who say, among other things, the ongoing drought situation has made the already bad situation worse since many have lost their livelihoods.
The release of the KCPE results signaled the beginning of a new educational journey for the over 1 million learners who are expected to transition to secondary school. And with less than a week before the learners join high school, many learners who perform relatively well are staring at a bleak future since they are likely not to join high school due to extreme poverty. At Isiolo village in Wajir, I tracked down Mohammed Ado, who scored 353, whose future to be enrolled to Wajir High School is not forthcoming.
I completed my primary education in Jogbaro Primary School. I attained a max of 353 marks. As you see, my parents are very poor. They cannot afford to pay for my school fees. So, with those inconveniences, I ask the well-wishers, the helpers, those who have been given wealth by the Almighty God.
Just like Mohammed, Edo Khalif is also facing the fate with his father, the main breadwinner of the family, being mentally unstable.
I can't afford my boy's uniform, leave alone the school fees. He's helplessly staying at home. I do not have a relative, nor do I know anyone in the government. This morning, we didn't even have breakfast.
The families are now urging the government to intervene to ensure that bright but needy students are assisted to achieve their educational dream.
Unfortunately, they can't continue with the secondary education because of the circumstances and because of now the prolonged drought. As persons, as pastoral communities, we actually have the challenge of pastoral dropouts.
For these students to achieve their potential, the ball now lies on the county and national government, not forgetting the well-wishers. Hashim Jamal reporting for TV 47, Wajir County.
Now, days after President William Ruto declared that alcohol and drug abuse had become a real menace in the country, with many youth suffering from addiction, well, a group comprising of former chief and Nyumba Kumi leaders in Makadara constituency, Nairobi, has now launched a special program to help tackle illicit brews in the area. Collins Lusweti with that.
Ulize viongozi wa kanisa, maaskofu mlio hapa, pamoja na wachungaji wote, pamoja na viongozi wote wa dini, nikiwaunganisha pamoja na machief na maassistant chief na wazee wa nyumba kumi. Tafadhali, tuko na janga kubwa ya mambo ya pombe na mambo ya madawa ya kulevya ambayo inaangaisha watoto wa taifa letu la Kenya. Please, I am asking for a concerted effort.
It was a rallying call from President Ruto on Sunday at Olentimama Stadium in Narok County, calling on security officials and other stakeholders to help address the alcohol and drug menace in the country. And now, a group in Makadara constituency in Nairobi County appears to have heeded to the call. Led by former area chief Alexander Hoops Shihemi and other Nyumba Kumi leaders, the group has launched a program dubbed Mulika Changa Okoa Mtoto with the aim of addressing the situation in the area.
This is in response to the government appeals to the people of Kenya to cooperate with the government in efforts to fighting alcoholism through Nyumba Kumi platforms to eliminate the menace in the society.
Residents in the area say young boys and girls are lost in alcohol, with cases of school dropouts on the rise, which they say has a direct correspondence with the rise in criminal activities.
Watoto wengi sana wameharibika, hata shule waendi na wanaharibiana wenyewe kwa wenyewe, vile wanaguro mpaka unapata msichana pia anakunywa.
Na changa na haribu watoto wa watu mingi. Hata wewe mwenyewe kwa nyumba, hii pesa hata ukifanyia hakuna kitu inafanya. watoto wetu wanakunywa pombe, watoto wameharibika, hata ukiwatafutia kazi wataki.
A number of addicts recovering from alcohol addiction have joined the initiative, saying the group has been helpful in their rehabilitation journey.
Shukuru Mungu kwa ajili ya chief wetu Hoops na watu wetu ya nyumba 10. Kama si hao hata singeweza kuomba kazi, singekuwa na certificate yote.
Nilikuwa na ugonjwa wa TB na kisonono, na Mungu kwa uwezo wa Mungu nikaweza kupona. Na mimi kitu naweza waomba ya kwamba ulevi sio mwisho wa maisha. Ukiamini Mungu, Mungu atakuwezesha.
Religious leaders in the area have called on security officers in the area to help in tackling the menace, saying illicit brews is easily accessed in the area without any hurdles.
Tutashikana vizuri na bwana chief. Tunaweza endeleza hii kitu kwa sababu wakati alikuwa Makongeni mambo yalikuwa mazuri. Walipokuja hawa wengine wakaanza kurudisha mambo nyuma. Sasa saa hii ukiingia hapo kuna wale ambao hata ukimpatia kibarua hawezi fanya. Anaamkia pombe na analalia pombe.
President William Ruto has already hinted at government's plans of relooking at licensing of alcohol sales in the country.
Na ndio tumesema leseni ya mahali ya kuuza pombe tutaanza kuchunguza vizuri.
Collins Lusweti, TV 47, Nairobi.
Mlika changa okoa mtoto. Mlika changa okoa mtoto.
All right, and welcome back to the broadcast. Okay, did I just say welcome? Well, we are on. I am saying welcome because it's about that time where I introduced the gentlemen that are joining me on set. I was just talking to them about propaganda, and then I realized actually one of them sent me something to do with propaganda. It's interesting how some of these things then would connect. And they are politicians, and therefore the name propaganda or the word propaganda would not fail to occur time and again when we're having conversations. And yes, we'll get into that space of politics for a moment, as well as just looking at what is happening in the country as pertaining to other matters. It is always a pleasure to have this gentleman join us, and this is because we have noble conversations as pertaining to the sanity of the nation. It is not, news to us that politics will always be there, despite the fact that we say, we are now done with politics. 2022 is out, it's behind us, let's focus on development. Day in, day out, there's always something that is politically instigated that plays out. And all this, would say politicians are paid to politic, but just to what extent should we push this? And therefore, this morning, we just look at the political discord in the country, but most importantly, the other matters that are of importance. Allow for me to introduce the gentlemen that join us for this very, very noble conversation. Honorable Kiruga Dhuku, Member of Parliament, a Member of County Assembly. I mean, you should be saying amen, Chinga Ward. You should be saying amen to that, because step by step, yeah? Step by step. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for creating time to be with us. All the way from Nyeri?
Yes.
This morning?
Yes.
All is well down there?
Very well.
All right, karibu
Thank you very much.
sana. Karibu sana. Engineer Alex Mwathi, governance expert, is as well with us this morning. Thank you so much. He's a politician. That's why I say with confidence. Please don't think that I'm saying he's an engineer and not a politician. I have had him on set a couple of times, and I can confidently say that he is a politician as well. Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Honorable James Gakuya, is with us this morning. I always say I don't want to have Mheshimiwa with a newspaper on set. The most interesting bit is that he likes his newspaper, but every single thing you say he's listening to, and he reacts and responds accordingly. I think these are some of the people who are just especially, they're created special. It is very interesting. He would be on the paper, but he would respond to you accurately.
And also multitask. You say men don't multitask.
I am surprised. If there's a man I can confidently say he multitasks, especially on set, then it has to be the Member of Parliament of Embakasi North. Mheshimiwa, how are you?
I'm good, Reader.
Time is moving. You're almost coming back to Parliament.
Of course, yes. It has been a long recess, and we have enjoyed it well. But everything which has a start has to come to an end.
Yeah.
And therefore, the vacation is coming to an end by 14th, and we resume back to Parliament. But let me also tell Kenyans that actually the business is not only at the front of the house. There's been a lot of business even outside the house, because committees has been meeting, and other business of the house has been going on. Therefore, it's only that actually there was no business in the floor of the chamber.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and of course this time around,
otherwise,
there was no moment where the speaker called you back or he called you to address anything? This time around it was different.
One thing is that in fact, such chances are very rare because it depends on those very, very emergency areas which has timelines, and that cannot be able to allow to wait until the coming back of the House.
I think we've seen the Senate
this time loud,
there was
the National Assembly has no such. But in the area of Senate, then we had an issue because there are issues to conclude about the issue to do with the Mwangaza.
Yeah.
And those are matters that could not wait until the last whistle of the vacation. Otherwise, allow me to salute the viewers and more so those good people of Embakasi North. And allow me just to tell them that let everybody, and especially who resides in Nairobi, to take advantage of not wasting time. Time is never recovered, and we always work with the time. Just wake up and do something so that you can account that particular day. That day is very important, and you will never see it again. Even though you move to do anything little, it may add value to your life.
That's true, and I mean a very good way to start the day. A reminder that time waits for no man, and therefore that 1 second that you have, make the best out of it. The best could be small in the eyes of other people, but you just do not know what that then would do. How far are we with getting funds for the county assemblies?
Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
Let me also take this opportunity to greet the viewers. And also, thank you very much. Wewe unaonekana uko digital. You have been told to fix something here. I have
Mara moja.
Mara moja.
You should have seen what happened at the cabinet yesterday meeting. I mean, everybody is running digital, and they start off by saying, "Hakuna makaratasi na makalamu." Tunaanza hizi meeting na digital. I hope we get there.
But you see, our opponents still had a way of manufacturing their own papers. And you see saying, "Oh, I don't know, we are digital, we are using." Anyway, we are a country full of propaganda. Anyway, I want to greet the people of Nyeri. We are fine. And just to throw back what you have said, we are still fighting for wards to get the devolved funds. We want devolution not just to be theoretical. We want practical devolution whereby funds are devolved all the way to the wards. We want it to be constitutional, just like my senior here, the Mheshimiwa Gakuya, just the same way they are entrenching monies to do with CDF in the constitution. The women representative, they are having their kitty entrenched in the constitution. Senators are having their kitty entrenched in the constitution. Also, let the wards. This money.
Senators not just yet, right?
It is there. It is in the proposal. So
the proposal,
what we are saying, this money doesn't belong to MCAs. This money belongs to the people, and we want it devolved at the ward level. And that is what we as the CAF have tasked our chair, Honorable Sablei, and our SG, Honorable Chege, to pursue with our gusto so that our people, if all our wards are getting money directly from the government, MCs will be busy people bringing up projects that will be helping our people. So because my Honorable Gakuya is my very good friend, I hope he will support this cause because it's a very noble cause, and because we have worked with him in campaigning for the good government. He knows even when I talk here and say things will be done properly, I mean exactly that.
Okay, so, fair enough. I want to take it from you.
Leader, before you move on, let me also just add a small line there and say it's only that we have been electing people who has no goodwill to the people. Because what is the business of the governor in the office of county government? It is to serve those smaller units down there. And what are those units? Those units are ward units. What other business is for that money? Unless you tell us that actually you have no business to serve the people.
But why is this that this money, and we know that money is a factor, an important one. Why is it that it has to be handled by individuals, by people, by leaders, that every leader feels like they can only, make sure that there's development in their places after they have handled some amount of money? Can't this money be handled by, say, the county government and now the executive or the governors, and still serve the people without it having to go through the hands of the members of county?
Linda, we are
a
constitutional country.
Yeah.
And the constitution defines the role of the MCA, it defines the role of the MP, Member of Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
And among the roles, there's no role that requires them to manage any funds.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent, if you ask me, even CDF was done in error. Should not be there. Because the purpose of the members of parliament is to check the executive, so that
but do you really control that fund? And that fund is not the fund. That fund is decentralized. From the national government, decentralized. Just note the borderline.
Yeah, we don't want to interfere with the expert, but it was also good to educate him.
I'm sorry.
No, let's allow him to execute his
then
point.
We come
submit his point and then we come.
The reason I've kept quiet is to give you a chance to interject, but normally it's always good in a debate to let somebody finish so that you can hear his thoughts. But when you react to the full information. Presentation, not half of what you imagine he's going to say.
Okay, my good friend.
Most obliged to our...
I've been one of the people who have always said in the last 10, 15 years that the CDA is misplaced completely, because there's no reason why you can have funds in the... Look at what the CDF does when you go to the villages. You see classrooms built. You see bursary funds done. We have Ministry of Education. We have Ministry of Health. We have all the ministries that are able to do that thing. And the work of the MP in the Constitution is to check on the executive on expenditure. You can't then be responsible for any expenditure, because then how do you check your boss while you're managing the funds? And that's why my argument has always been that the members of parliament, the members of county assemblies must actually go back to the Constitution and read what their role is. And one of them is not to manage development project. It's not. It's not there.
All right.
Okay, Linda.
And one point.
He has a very valid
especially
point.
In the question of oversight.
Yeah, he's a good man. We need to bring reality and practicability. At times, when people are arguing, leader, they say MCAs, MPs, oversight. I don't know.
And they do not say it is what is.
Yeah, but let me tell you something, Linda. Practically, our people, you cannot just go to the people like Mheshimiwa Akuya at the end of kwake, he tells people, I'm oversighting there in parliament, I'm representing you. These days, Linda, and I have told you here countless times, people want politics of development. And one way of doing politics of development is bringing in fact, we are not saying you are the ones to manage it. It is, you want development whereby you sit with your people, you agree, you are presenting these projects, the government comes there to execute, and you oversight. But you are part and parcel of identifying the projects on the ground. Let me give you a very good example. In Nyeri, our Governor Mutahi, and I always thank this gentleman very much, he started something akin to this World Fund, whereby all the 30 MCs in Nyeri County got 30 million. Can you imagine some bridges that even had escaped the presidency of Moi Kibaki to be done in my ward? I went, I sat with the people, we built 4 new bridges in that.
So can we confidently say that this money is there? It's just that maybe it's not been handled the way you want, and therefore there's no point for more more money.
Just the same way Mzee Moi Kibaki came here, the money was there, it was being eaten by people, he streamlined the tax collection.
Why then ask for more money?
Yeah, we are not asking for more money.
You're just saying that you streamline this.
We streamline whereby just the same way we have CDF.
Yes.
We have money allocated, and it is in the Constitution.
From this very kitty that is there with the governor, or from...
No, whichever way the government will go about it.
Okay.
But we have money whereby, even where we don't have a good governor like our governor, MCAs are assured there is ward development money, so that we even eliminate some of these fights we have seen between MCAs and governors. The only way to eliminate them, because these fights are all about resources, you see, so that people know they will sit with their leader, and this is, I want my brother here, the expert, to know this. You sit with your leader, you identify the projects, and that is normally what we do in Nyeri. You give them to the government to execute, then you oversight. So you will be playing your constitutional role of representation and oversight and legislation. There is no conflict of interest.
Is it me?
Allow me to come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Allow me to come in before
all right, before your friend Mwathi, yes.
One thing, Rinda, let me say.
Yes.
Our constitution was borrowed elsewhere. And sometimes there can be teething issues to areas or to implement. But I can tell you for sure, issues to do with what we call ward fund and the CDF or NGCDF. One thing I want to make it very clear, that a member of parliament, the current act of CDF does not involve member of parliament anywhere in that management of that kitty. But it has given a law to the member, the same law that is given by the constitution to oversight that kitty. You can only oversight, but you have no any other law in that particular fund. When we come to the agitated ward fund, one, there cannot be two parallel funds in the county government. One thing is that, in fact, the only fund which can be formalized or reorganized to make sure that there is a separate kitty of ward fund is the same funds that are changed to the county government. What is lacking here is just a goodwill from the governor. Why? Because governors do waivers in terms of development to such areas that they want to bring up or support. A governor may decide he is in battles with a certain MCA, and therefore he will punish that MCA by means of not making project in that particular ward. But who is suffering? Is it the MCA or the people? It's the people who are suffering. Yeah. But if we can have governors who can be able to strike a clear balance on the ground where every ward will be able to be served, regardless whether that ward has an opposition candidate, whether an independent candidate, or whether it has a candidate from the sitting government, I think we can be able to solve this matter. But this matter seems not to be anywhere to be solved if that is the narrative that the governors will still keep on. But if the governors can change and where their law, because actually that is their law. Their law is to make sure that the Wanjiku down there at least gets what we call service closer. What does that mean? He must make sure that all the wards within his county are equal. Let me say there is areas that of concern where maybe probably the budget cannot exactly equal, because probably depending on the kind of priority projects that particular ward has, probably it's a road project which might be costly other than building classrooms. But there has to be projects to the people of that particular ward. If that can be done, I think these menace cannot be there. But it is very clear that actually MCAs, their role is to check the governor.
And what about the NGCD?
What
about the NGCD? Yes.
And that kitty, which is a ward fund, I am not against it.
Yeah.
What the governor should do is the same budget for those wards. Let them allow to have that kitty, so that kitty, maybe the area MCA can be also talk to his people during the priority. Okay. But there can't be a way that there can be a kitty controlled by the MCA. Yes.
Linda,
allow him to say something.
I'm sitting between two politicians and who have interests in what we are discussing. So it's a little bit tricky to wiggle around them. But the point is a matter of law. They have a responsibility, and that responsibility does not include development projects, running development projects. because the development projects are run by government departments that are concerned. If it's education, it's the Ministry of Education. If it's agriculture, there is an agricultural ministry, and agriculture is run by the county governments, which means that the MCAs are meant to go to the assemblies and discuss the projects they want to do on the agricultural area, and then convince the government of the county to be able to take up that. Now, the work of the MCA is to do that representation in the assembly. The work of member of parliament is to do that in the National Assembly, so that wherever there is a requirement for development, that the government is made to understand. My friend, good friend, Gakuya will tell you that when they want roads done in
constituency,
his constituency, what he does is to present that both in parliament as well as go to canvass in the Ministry of Kenya Urban Roads. For him, he's lucky that there is even a national highway that passes through his constituency. So, and goes to the both of them and tells them, look, we need to do this. And with that, the ministry is able to look at all the projects that are there and be able to formulate. Giving money to do roads is wrong. It's not the right thing, because we are a constitutional country that need to follow the constitution. I think this debate, they will have their way because they will have their way because they are, in that discussion of that, they're the majority. Both in Senate for the purpose of the ward people, and in Parliament for the purpose of CDF, they are the majority. And you know, but democracy is about majority having their way and the minority having their say. So we are the minority outside here who are looking at the constitution and questioning, but I'm 100% sure that they will lead the debate.
And perhaps deep down they know that this is the reality of the matter.
They do.
Linda, you see, my brother...
Mheshimiwa, allow me to cut you.
Yes.
And take a short break, and then we come back on that.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Kilimo Diaries is not your one-stop show. We are always on the move to different farms, and it's always unpredictable, with animals, crops, and advice from both farmers and experts. We are always here to inform you on everything agriculture, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on your home of untold stories.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast, and the gentleman on set, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, as well as Engineer Alex Mwathi and Honorable Kiruga Duku. I could understand if members of the county assembly are asking for this, but members of parliament, yet we're talking about devolution. Devolution, in its essence, is to bring development to the people at the grassroots. And then there's a county government, and then there are members of the county assembly, and therefore there's a fully functional, county office that is supposed to handle questions of development, be it education, be it health, be it what, at the level of these counties. Why is it that members of parliament are pushed to a level where they will ask for kitties so that they can take these kitties back to their counties to develop the counties?
Okay, thank you, Linda. You know, Linda, in the current Kenya we have today, there is no leader, and don't get confused. Don't be lied to by anyone. There is no person in leadership who will accept to serve at a portfolio where there is no resources they are taking back to the people. And we have evolved to a situation whereby leaders, even if you are the best debater in parliament or the county assemblies, and there is nothing you are taking to the ground to your people, they will still vote you
So
out.
what is the problem here? Is it that the people do not understand the rules of the
much
people
of a problem,
they elect, or what?
It's not much
It is
of a problem. No,
because
people,
if it's clear, you see, this is where the problem is. And one of the reasons why most of the members of parliament and the members of the county assembly will tell you they want to take this to the people, beyond the people, their worry is, if I do not fuel them, if I do not show them that I'm bringing money and resources down, they will not re-elect me.
Yes.
That is the greatest problem. And therefore, there is a problem
Yes.
that you will work on your functions as expected by the Constitution, and that will make your people not vote you back because they think you're not bringing money home or you're not bringing development home. And therefore, what is the problem? Is it that the people do not understand the roles of the leaders that they elect, or even the leaders themselves?
No, in fact, I support what the people are doing, because you see, people are demanding for tangible development from their leaders, which is the way to go. And let me tell you something, leader. Even a strong leader like Mzee Kibaki, he started his career in Udaya by building so many schools in that area. And this is what we are saying, with politics of development, you can never go wrong. You see, my brother Mheshimiwa Kakuya here, with them, they have said they want NGCDF to be entrenched in the Constitution. So, MCAs, we are also saying, don't leave MCAs at the mercy of governors. Make it legal that this money that comes to the counties, whether you see, leader, you literally admit some governors come here and they say, if an MCA does not toe my line, he or she will not get any resources from my government. These are not their resources. These resources belong to the people. These are the taxes our people have paid that are coming back to them via those offices.
If you oversight on them proper, what makes you think these governors handle the funds?
I'll lend the MPs. Tell me, Linda, I've told you this, and look here. Senators now have an oversight committee. Women.
A proposal.
Yes. It will pass through, as Mr. Modi says, it will.
Okay.
Women reps.
GAF.
They have their kitty. MPs, they have their kitty. All these entrenched in the Constitution, and that is why I've told you, and I have mentioned.
Some of them are illegal.
Look, they are not. I've mentioned.
Or at least have been declared illegal.
Look here, Linda. Now you know when you seal all the loopholes, it becomes legal, and we are saying, and that is why where at CAF we have tasked our chair, Honorable Sabulei, and our SG, Honorable Chege, that as the other kitties, and we passed 47 motion, in all the 47 county assemblies, we passed a similar motion calling for the entrenchment of the ward kitty alongside the other kitties in the Constitution. And this one, I don't see why anyone would have a problem with it anyway, because it is about taking resources back to our people. And the same way, the MP oversight and the other oversight over the kitties, that is the same way the MCA will do. You see? And it is not about ourselves. This we will even leave beyond our tenures. Those MCAs who will come after us, they will have kitties developing their wards. But when you leave it under the masses of the governors, then you create all these hulabaloo, governors fighting MCAs. No, we want that eliminated. And that will be very well eliminated by making sure these facts are legalized. They are in the Constitution.
We might as well say that this conversation
Let me first and allow me to correct the Mheshimiwa kwamba that when this is passed in law, it doesn't become part of the Constitution.
For sure.
Will not change. So you're creating another law that might be against the Constitution. Because remember, the CDA fund was declared by courts to be unconstitutional. So even when you create these laws, there's nothing that would change the fact that they are unconstitutional, as it were. So they are not going to change the Constitution, because it's good also to clear to our viewers so that they know the fact. It's creating a law to allow this. The court has declared that NCDF is unconstitutional. So whatever else law you to create will be that. But like I said, the majority will have their way, and the minority, those of us who are here, will say that. But I'm happy that both gentlemen have agreed that the purpose of that kitty is nothing to do with anything other than you having something that you can take back to the people, which means some extra thing that you do outside your role. So basically what you're doing is that you're using it for campaigning for the next election. So the people can elect you again. Because you think if you do the job that you're elected for, it cannot be enough for you to be elected in the next election. So which means basically the government is bribing you to be able to move forward.
All right, well, and I think we close it at that because you see, we saw the members of county assembly, the members of the National Assembly successfully managing to at least get this kitty in favor of them. Otherwise, they could not have conducted the induction processes that took them all the way to the to county 001. Yeah. And you close this week sometime on Friday. All right. We certainly hope that so much comes out of that, and we seek to see just how best then the committees will handle the businesses of the House. You want to say something small?
Just so that we can close that chapter, I just want to make it very clear that members of Parliament, or in this particular circle of this CDF, I would say it is not a political mileage to them. But this money is for service delivery. What we are lacking is a linkage, because the Constitution envisages that there is 2 tiers of government. But the second tier does not seem to be working. It seems to be mark-timing and not providing service it requires by the Constitution. And that's why you find that there's a lot of lacuna. If there is no CDF, actually, the parents will tell you the students are not anywhere ready to move to school, because without that, they are dependent of that particular bursary from that kitty. Any other project in the constitutions I come from, I can tell you, just get there, evaluate how many projects does the county of Nairobi has implemented in my constitution. No single road. No single road.
So we clearly have a problem with the aspect of devolution.
I can tell you, 10 years I've been serving without a single road. What could I be doing to the people of Embakasi North? Unless I always keep on looking or checking myself out of the box and find how roads can be able to.
But we also know what NGCDF is supposed to handle.
No,
the roads.
I am telling you, we have done a lot of roads there before.
Okay. But not under the county government.
I am saying those times that actually there was no divisions between which particular job that CDF can work, we did a lot of roads. Currently, we are doing roads through Kera, Kura, and other means. But where is the county, which is the organization that's supposed to be taking these responsibilities? It's nowhere. Where is the fund? Because the fund always trickle down to them. But you find always time they're asking for this fund. But my big question is really all the funds that are entitled to the county government really for current expenditure and servicing that? If then that is like saying we are manning institutions that are totally, I would say, broke. And if that's the case, then they are supposed to close their shops tomorrow. If this is the case, because if we have counties that are totally insolvent. How do they expect? Do you expect them to serve the people? And we go the route that Mwaniki is envisaging. And how do we realize to serve that common demand out there? There is that linkage is out there. But what I will say, I have no problem with Woodford. But Woodford, during the budgets of these counties, they always budget for projects. Then what the governor should do is to make sure that within those projections of their budgets, they put every ward with its project, so that the MCA can be able to know what is happening in his ward and can be able to push the projects that are entitled in the budget. But you realize there are heap of budgets and there's no single day that they implemented. Where does the money go?
Good question. Linda, recently we had the meetings for CIDPs, in fact in most of these counties. Now in CIDP, you capture, in fact, you can capture even more than 200 projects, Linda. Yet, you can realize that after the 5 years, not even 10% of those projects have been done. I like now the argument by Honorable Gakuya because it confirms, it vindicates our fight for these funds. Because you see, you will go there in the budget and propose, or in the assembly and propose all manner of projects. But there is nothing that compels the governor to adopt your proposals. And as the assemblies try to, to muscle in and ensure their projects are done, that's where fights erupt. So what we are saying is, why don't we caution a certain percentage of the county funds? And because you see, if a governor goes against that, they'll be breaking the law. So we caution a certain amount and we say this money goes directly to the wards. The governor, as this money comes to your county, you cannot touch this money for any other purpose. This goes to the wards. I'm telling you, Linda, most of these problems you have been seeing in the wards will be solved in a day. You see? And you see, I think this one needs to think very clearly. We are not saying this money belongs to the MCA. This money belongs to the ward.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's close that one and watch how it takes shape. Yes.
I look for the day that this argument will be taken a little bit further, that the MCA will not be able to manage the ward fund correctly, so that it trickles down to the individual homes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, interesting. There you go. And so, gentlemen, let's shelve that one because we can talk about it until the cows come back home. So, Mwathi, I don't know how best to frame this one because I've been talking about it for the better part of the week and it looks like it's here and here for quite a while. I think I started by saying that we all thought, we were done and dusted with the question of politics and we're getting to a different space altogether. But then one would want to say that Kenyan politics today revolves around three key figures, as one of the papers would say. That is, the president, Dr. William Ruto, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and now former president, that is retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta. Perhaps to start by saying discuss.
That's a good way to start. First of all, anyone who thought that after the election the politics will end, they were wrong. The only thing that you can imagine is which direction the politics will go. And you hope that now people will reset themselves in a way that we have progressive politics. Yeah. The bottom line is we have a good number of politicians. I think the people who vied for last year was in the region of about 6,000 Kenyans. And now you have 390 in parliament. We have, 2,000, almost 2,000 MCAs. And of course the governors and the governors. And all these are politicians. As soon as you do your election, Mheshimiwa Gakuya will tell you, because he's a veteran in that. Yeah. Fantastic. And congratulations that the people of the constituency
have trusted
you over and over again. Yeah. You must be doing something for them.
They call him Bazoo.
Bazoo, I know. I know. Yeah. And he'll tell you that as soon as you get elected, and it's announced, at the polling stations, at the constituency level, where now it was announced that the winner is Bwana Gakuya, he will tell you if he's honest, and I know he's a very honest man, he speaks the truth, that immediately started thinking of 2027.
Yep.
Now I've taken this, fantastic. I have to do work for 5 years looking at 2027 so that I can be elected again. So politics were not going to end. The only issue is which direction they go.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately for us as a country, and I have seen this happen in the US of America, we have completely converted our politics from politics of issues to politics of propaganda. And propaganda is a simple thing, that it's you tell a lie once, it remains a lie. You tell a lie 1,000 times, it becomes a truth. To an extent, Joseph Goebbels, who was a minister for propaganda in Hitler's government, Hitler was smart. He knew he needed a minister for propaganda.
Interesting, yeah.
Somebody to channel lies continuously.
Yeah.
And this guy was in charge from, I think, 1932 up to the 1st of April 1945 when the war ended. He was a minister for propaganda, and he was smart. He was smart in his job. And he's a guy who told us that about telling a lie 1,000 times, it becomes a truth, and you yourself believe it.
Yeah.
That's, for me, is the only issue that we have no limit to the lies we can tell and how often we tell them so that they can become the truth. But truth be told, it's true that there are three main protagonists in this. Two are together. Raila Odinga is together with Uhuru Kenyatta, and of course His Excellency the President is on his own with this game at the top. And that fight will continue until they find what you call a common cause that will serve all of them.
Right.
That's the idea.
That is the whole idea.
Not to serve the people of Kenya, but to serve their own interest. You notice, allow me to say this, that you notice 1997, when Raila Odinga and Kibaki were in opposition, they questioned the winning of the Moi. And as soon as Moi realized he had minority in parliament, he drew in Tinga. That's where Tinga came from. You remember the symbol for UNDP was Tinga. So he got Tinga into the government, made him the Minister for Infrastructure, and then the government, he had majority in parliament to be able to rule. In 2002, of course, immediately the elections were done. There was an expectation that he would be made Prime Minister. He wasn't made, and the fight started, culminated in 2005, where we had a referendum, and the Orange moved out. 2007, same thing happened. You stole my votes. Come in, he becomes Prime Minister. He serves together. In 2013, that did not work very well, and that's why you had a lot of agitation. I don't remember the 5 days agitation every week at IEBC offices. 2017, fantastic deal. You become the de facto deputy president, and we have the elected one become the de jure, by de facto, the one who is elected, and the one de jure.
Yeah.
So you had to fight deputy presidents, and for 5 years we were fed with politics, propaganda about the fight between the two. That we forgot that there is a country to run. We fortunately had that the other team realized that the best way to do that is to turn around the politics of the day. It became economic, which for me, it serves at this country. So now we've reached this point. Where do I move? Where do I come in? Do you want to call it nusu mkate? Do you want to call it handshake? Do you want
of opposition?
Do you want to call it office of the opposition? Do you want to call it 1997? I think it was called. There's a name that was used at that time. So there have been various names in various times, and this must culminate in that for people to keep quiet.
And I'll come back to you to understand. Are we just that naive? That gullible at a time when Kenyans are, being said to at least be alert and politically woke?
I'll answer you quickly. Goebbels, in one of his quotes, says that the masses are gullible to a level of idiocy that they believe every lie they are told as long as it's told many times.
Wow. Interesting. So where are you headed? And I'm saying you because then you were elected under UDA, right? Ticket. And so that means you are largely part and parcel of this government at the level of parliament. Then you represent the face of the president and the government of the day. Where are you headed with this tax fight? And especially at this point when now politics is incorporated therein. I have just looked at one of the papers this morning. I remember the other time they were targeting, or at least they said they were targeting Nakuru Senator. That is, of course, Keroche, so to speak. There was this conversation that this was politically instigated. But again, I see a story of her and the husband and now the entire Keroche, and then KRA is on their case. How different will this be looked at now that she's in Parliament, or so to speak? She's in Senate. She's part and parcel of the government. And equally, looking at the papers, most of the stories speak of just how some cases have been withdrawn, and therein sit those ones that were alleged to be tax evaders. Just where are you headed with this tax battle?
Thank you, Rida. I would say that there is no single government internationally that will survive without firm and strict measures of revenue collection. And one thing is that, in fact, a government does not have its own kitty. Government depends on collecting revenue from the people, and this is tax. That's why, personally, I always, at every end month, lose to government 370,000 shillings as a tax. Pay as I earn. That's it. And I never complain. Because not only myself,
but again, okay, well, are they not, is it not too extreme to imagine that a whole 300 anyway? Yes.
No.
I think the taxes are too expensive in this country.
Let us agree. Let us agree. Sometimes I also check my payslip and wonder, really,
it is,
why is this too much? But I have no choice.
Yes.
Take into consideration that actually it is the same knife which is really cutting across the others. And I have no complaint. What I do complain is how this revenue is expended.
Yes.
If these particular taxes can be expended well, very prudently, nobody can be able to complain. I have an issue with areas where maybe there was kind of witch hunt, and there is a issue to do with Keroche. It does not mean that, in fact, that taxman, that creaser, that his duty is to close the businesses. Because once you close the business, really, do you find a window on how to unlock this particular issue of tax? I think the best thing is to find a way. If somebody has those pending bill, find a way how there can be at least a proper arrangement of how this can be gradually paid. Because at the end of the day, when this particular business survives, you keep milking there as a KRI. But once you kill it and close it, then automatically that cow is dead. And that's, it's better to look at it on a better way of handling it, other than witch hunt once you are pride.
Okay.
Number two, let me say, everybody is entitled to be within this basket of paying tax. Tax should not be seen, it is for others, and others survives with what we call a window of exception. That window of exception should be closed like yesterday. And if we are going to have a one center way of implementing tax correction, it must be totally standard to everybody.
And
because surely, leader, you'll find that the battle today is that there is a notion that the president has stated that everybody will pay tax. And you find there is families which have escaped from tax over 1 trillion Kenya shillings. That money should be Kenya's money. And that does not have money at the offshore, where Kenyans are suffering. We need those money back here, and if people are good enough to this country, instead of allowing Kenya to go to borrow to China or elsewhere, they are much richer enough. They can bring back their money we borrow from them, other than borrowing money from China and elsewhere.
Interesting. And when you say that we should not close some of these businesses, these people are getting into these businesses or big businesses with the knowledge and proper understanding on the question of tax. They have literally hired individuals that walk them through the process of tax. For them to have evaded so that we come here and have a conversation in the sense of saying that, well, we can't close their businesses because these businesses, there are people who are dependent on them, this and that and everything. So literally, we're trying to encourage this aspect of evade. After all, your business is big enough, and therefore the government cannot just come and close it.
But what I'm saying, Rida, is not that it's a good habit.
Yes.
Because one should honor to pay tax promptly at the right time. It's not a business for, if really your business is running, how do you keep on piling this particular tax up to a level of billions of money, where every single year, every single month, you need to limit your remittance to the KRI. So what I'm saying is that I am only agitating that, in fact, the best way is not to close such kind of a facility. Because once you close it, you kill the business and you kill the jobs outright. But there can be a window to deal with such, because those are very rare cases. They are not many cases, where you find that somebody like Kariuki with a serious witch hunt, somebody like now Keroche, but at least I am not saying because Keroche now is a politician, should enjoy any single window
aspect
to be exempted.
And I'm keen to know how best they're going to handle these trillions that they're talking about for us to get them back home. But yes.
You know, Linda, there was a time when President Kibaki was elected as the president of Kenya, and he came back home there. He told us, because we were in a leaders meeting, sio ati wewe ukikosa kulipa kodi hata unaenda kushukuru Mungu hawajanipata. It is very good for you to pay your taxes, because that is the only way your government can be able to bring development to you.
But this government is not, or at least the government has not been doing that.
No, look,
that's why.
Let us look at the issue holistically.
Okay.
Linda, the problem we have here, and I'm very glad because His Excellency the President has come out very clearly. He has said everyone, starting with myself, should pay taxes. So I'm not saying Kenyans should pay taxes, with myself as an exception as a president. The problem we have here, Linda, as Mheshimiwa Gakuya has mentioned here, and as all of us have seen, the big problem we have seen is that people have been misusing their government positions. In the last regime, people are out there closing businesses, Keroshe industries, I don't know, Humphrey and others there. Yet, there were some sections or some members of the same government whom it is now coming out could actually have been skipping paying their taxes. What we are saying, we don't want to say it is about this, it is about this one, it is about that one, it's about the other. We are saying all Kenyans, all of us, even myself. You have just heard what Mheshimiwa Gakuya has said here. You look at your payslip, wow, a lot of taxes there. What we are saying is, we need a fair regime for everyone. If there is someone who have not paid for their taxes, unfortunately the president has said KRA is not there, they are not police. They should enter into negotiations with those people who have not paid their taxes. They agree on how the taxes will be paid. And the president has made it clear, don't go closing people's businesses, because even if they owe you and you close their business, that means you lose that money. Let these people remain afloat so that they work and you agree how they will go paying you those taxes, small portions until they clear. Otherwise, if you close their businesses, you lose that money. So Linda, as we take the break, everyone must pay their taxes. If there is a member of the last regime who didn't pay for their taxes, they must pay.
After the short break.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Are you looking for a distinguished institution of academic and professional excellence to kickstart your career? Tourism, journalism, ICT, business, accounting, hairdressing and beauty, health sciences, community development and foreign language, and have placed over 26,000 graduates since 1994. Our state-of-the-art equipment, well-equipped workshops, indoor and outdoor sports facilities make us the preferred choice.
During my training, I was able to become a skips, which has helped me to
to achieve my goals in community development.
Admissions for January 2023 intake is ongoing. For more information, call 0720-813-113 or visit any of our 6 campuses located within Nairobi. KIPS Technical College, your sure path to success.
Hey!
Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Chika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Haya, chika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Oh, gentlemen, you know we're back, and I am looking at this estate duty. You must have seen it now and making rounds. For a moment, I thought it is not legit.
It's legit.
That a section speaks of this section shall not apply to His Excellency Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and His Excellency Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. We have gotten to a space where laws can be written to levels or specific individuals, protecting them or incriminating them, whichever way.
That Linda is a law that was passed by those previous parliaments, purposely to protect those families from paying taxes.
And so how do you review this one?
No.
How do you
I can tell you, every single law always lapses after 6 months. Okay. So those 6 months were elapsed a long time ago. Actually, there is a law to review this particular kind of laws.
There's a bit of reading that we have to do. As some point in time, the Mzungu man says that if you want to hide something from an African, hide it somewhere in a book. Is this a classic example of that?
Yes, Linda, because remember what I said, the Constitution defines the role of the MCAs as well as the role of the members of parliament. And for them, the key role is to make law, legislate, which means they're supposed to be able to look at the laws that don't make sense and make them make sense. Or they serve the people. Listen to us and make laws that serve this country. Laws that are constitutional, that align with the Constitution, because that is a document we as Kenyans has given them as a framework of what they need to do.
Right.
But we spend time talking about CDF. We take time even going for retreat to talk about CDF instead of talking about laws that help this country. And I think it behoves on them to going forward, maybe they need to change their focus and look more on the legislature, look at the oversight, and less on ensuring that they get elected in the future because of the goodies that they take to the people behind them. But I just wanted to also chip in on something that both of them have spoken about. And this is about payment of taxes by organization, by people. Just like the CDF, the purpose is a perceived failure of the county governments, a perceived failure of the national government to take development of the people that they want to cure by having a small kitty. For me, the bigger issue would be to find out why are the county government not being able to do that and create laws that force them to do it. As opposed to creating a diversionary tactic. The whole story that I keep giving of having a headache and you go to a hospital, you're given Panadol. As opposed to somebody saying, why the headache? Is it migraine? Is it malaria? Is it meningitis? What is it that causing this headache? So that you can actually be able to treat the problem. In the same way, KRA works within the law. To an extent, there is a mechanism for demanding taxes. They write you a demand note. Once they write a demand note, twice, you're called in to have a conversation. You're given a leeway. There's a tribunal that discusses those issues. You're given an opportunity to go to court if you have to go to court. And at the point where KRA actually closes your business, you're doing a criminal thing. To an extent, you're not, that
Lots
whole process is exhausted.
And
And if I read the Keroshe, and I'm not, I'm an industrialist in mind. So I'm not saying that we should close businesses. But also, we can't allow people to do their own things within our statutes.
Yes.
So Parliament needs to sit back and say, is that law punitive to the industry? Is that law punitive to the manufacturer? Is that law punitive to the business person? So that you change it so that KRA is given a set of law that they can follow. You can't go and kill a person that you give a job to do. And he did it exactly the way you wanted Where you wanted it. Change that so that it affects you. And between you and me, no one should be exempted from paying taxes. But it's so nice for us to say that this family had 2 trillion, this family had whatever. Yet we know, by admission of government, over the last 10 years, that 2 billion are stolen every single day. What is more important, to have one person pay the taxes that he hasn't paid, or to actually deal with that?
To seal the loopholes of
To seal the loopholes of 2 billion. Have we seen any attempt to seal that?
And because we can collect so much money, and I think that's what I wanted to tell the gentleman.
I haven't seen.
We could collect so much money in form of tax, but where does this money go? Corruption is a problem. KRA itself is a big problem.
It's such a big problem, Lina, let me tell you, that one officer working for KRA, was found to own properties
lots of it,
780 million shillings. He was taken to court. The court actually froze those items for him to show the source of that income, because
some of them subordinate staff, and you wonder at what point do they access this money.
So now I'm talking about this particular case.
Yes.
And the court froze those properties so that he can justify. That fella now has been appointed the chairman of a parastatutory inquiry by this government. So if you are appointing such a person, how can you tell me that you are going to fight for people who to pay their taxes? You're speaking from both sides of your mouth, unfortunately.
And Mheshimiwa, that is our biggest problem. It's fine. All these monies can be collected. We all have seen KRA officers, and not to make allegations that are baseless, but we have reports like, engineer would remind us. And if we are to overlook that aspect, we can just look at the faces that have been captured on the papers this morning. And while we largely speak about the question of witch hunt, we still have monies that are not there. And so to imagine that, well, there's no watertight case to incriminate someone on allegations of evading tax, yet really we acknowledge that there's some tax that has not been paid. What are we saying? Speaking like in both sides of the mouth, as engineer would rightfully say. So what then will you eventually achieve by collecting so much without that aspect of accountability, without sealing the loopholes of corruption or to corruption?
Reader, I have just spoken here, and I have stated very categorically that as much as we are fighting this element of evading tax, let us not also embrace witch hunt in terms of fighting these fights. Let everybody do his work right. You realize that actually KRA was used by the system to punish some of the politicians directly. If such an independent agency can be used to outsmart some members of parliament purposely because of what we call political issues, then we are doing it wrongly. It is important for those commissions, agencies that are entrusted by the Constitution to do work for Kenyans, to do their duties light and prudently, without favor and fear. But once you apply politics in those agencies, then the approach becomes long direction. And that's why you realize that there are here a number of people who has their cases withdrawn, purposely because on one case, and this matter, last time we discussed it with Omar here, where we did put very clear the territories of whose name is DPP. Yeah. DPP has every right. It is equivalent to the former AG, powers of no prosecute, that he can at any single time, once he realizes probably the evidence he has at the level cannot stand water in court, he has every duty to withdraw these matters. And I will say, most of these matters are those which has evaluated and have just seen they were politically instigated, and therefore they cannot stand water at the end of the day, at the tail end of the verdicts of the court. But this does not mean the battle stopped there. We would like to see If it is somebody who has an issue to do with evading of this particular element, the KRA should stand firm, and they should stand firm and say, yes, you are exempted, but there has to be arrangement between you. Because like this case I am seeing here, which is talking about 2.2 billion, at the point of the withdrawal of this matter, it was that there was a settlement agreement. And if such a kind of settlement agreement can be arrived, to me, it actually clears the handle, and there's nothing wrong with that, because you may be asked to pay 2 billion at a go, and maybe you cannot have them. Maybe they can be able even to look, because I'm sure KRI has powers even to look for your assets and auction them just to recover. If in case they have done all those and they have arrived that actually there is nowhere that these 2 billion can be found, then it is also wise to look for a mechanism to sort this. And I am not against what DPP is doing. He must be allowed to do his work, but also the agents that we have, they must do their work right. And they must totally preempt themselves from dealing with issues politically.
I will ask this again and bring it to you as well, because then you are the crafters of the laws of the land. And Alex Mwadi asks a very pertinent question, that what are these members of parliament doing there as they legislate, as they form some of these laws for us? While you agree that the estate duty is null and void as it stands right now, owing to Article 2 of the Constitution as well, and speaking of the supremacy and all this, it could be true that this is null and void, and it's actually the truth. But to imagine that this law once existed, at a time when there was a house that was supposed to oversee some of these laws that are presented and aside or assented to, or some of these bills that are assented to law, is quite worrying of the caliber of individuals that we elect to parliament.
One thing, Rinda, I will tell you, and I will tell you very straight from my heart, that the member of parliament does mean that, in fact, he has all the institutional memory of whatever has taken place from the day one of the inauguration of Kenya Parliament.
Members of parliament have PAs, have lots have a whole office right behind them.
But I can tell you, Rinda, every time, maybe probably by the time we want to do those reviews, there is what we call the urgent and current, which must concurrently go to.
But then again, at this point when this is being assented to law, it is being signed by the president to be assented to law. I'm assuming at this point then, there's that room for someone to go through a document and say, oh, we agree with what it is that the president is assenting to.
And what I'm telling you, Rina, it's not every piece of registration which was passed.
You get a chance to
which has been passed
through parliament,
the last parliament, or maybe the last parliament but one. We will realize maybe this kind of regulations or this kind of law were passed long time, maybe 20 years ago. One has to go back and do what we call a study and get clues of what happened. Like now, the issue to do with exemptions, which has been, you have just learned there. Not every single member, not everybody who is aware of this. This is a clause which was sneaked, and it is still there silent, but it protects somebody and protects some people.
How do we seal these loopholes? Because if it was sneaked then, you can be rest assured that today, another one that is quite heinous will be sneaked in.
No, the good thing today, Linda, is that we have a president in place who have said all institutions must be allowed to do the work they are supposed to do. There is no institutionalizing or politicizing of these institutions. Linda, the one problem that we had, and Mheshimiwa Gakuya has alluded to this, and I want to make it very open. I want to state it as it was. In the last regime we had, which you keep telling me we were part of, but we were outsiders in it. As long as you are a supporter of one William Samoei Ruto, you are in trouble with the government. I have a member of parliament who is my friend, who served in the last assembly. At one point, he was told, you must bring, by KRA, you must bring documents regarding a certain building you bought, I don't know on which date. That member of parliament was literally shaking.
Why would you shake if you have your
no, look,
order?
Look, what we are saying and what we are against. You cannot come here, Linda, you tell me, do this and this and this, yet my brother here, Mr. Mwadhi, could even be having even worse, documentation, even a worse case. But now because I'm supporting someone you don't like, you just want to zero in on me, right? Pin me down. What we are saying, and what the president has made very clear, we don't want these shenanigans. If you not paid your taxes, whether you support the government or not, you must pay. And you see now, Linda, the worst part is this. Once you realize that the government is following up on you, you start calling for mandamano for us here. Okay. No, that cannot. Yes, that's what is happening. And you see, and you see now what is what is most hurting, Linda. And these people, they must be told very clearly. You take your kids, you give them jobs outside the country. You come back to the children of the hustlers. You tell them, let's go on the streets. No, this government. Chebukati came to my home and asked for a bribe. I didn't give. I have a video. Yet you are not even providing the video. There was a case in the Supreme Court. You never took the video there. What we are saying, we don't want these diversionary tactics. If you have taxes you have not paid, go and pay. All of us are supporting the government. All of us are saying we want to pay our taxes. So don't tell us because the government is following your friends or someone you know or someone who is sponsoring you, you start giving us this, I don't know, you want to, I don't know what. Look, Linda, you even asked here about, I don't know, Nusumukate, I don't know about what. The issue is this, Linda. And the good thing is this. Even before these people started agitating for what they are agitating now, which is violence anyway, the president was very clear, our members of parliament were very clear. They want a discussion that will recognize the official leader of the opposition. So it is not being brought now so that it can assuage someone, but what we are saying is this. We have a constitution. Kenyans have given mandate to President William Ruto to lead them. This time around there will be nothing like Nusumukate. We have elected a government. We want it to serve us. We will support it. And like the expert here, my brother Modi is saying, we will expose those poor regimes or regiments that have come up that are hurting our people. For example, imagine someone uses the law to exempt someone from paying taxes, yet they are following others to pay taxes.
Well, I don't know whether it's a question of exemption or, like you say, exposing or a question of justice, Justice should prevail at the end of the day. And to imagine that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga would now, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, or former that is, would focus on bringing this maandamano, weekends for purposes of fighting the battles mated upon them, that is on the question of tax, is interesting to watch. And where does it land us eventually? Because then these maandamanos are clearly here.
Linda, it's we have bequeathed ourselves a country that loves rhetoric, a country that loves any statement that is made, and we make a big issue of it. Akin to in the 1950s, there was a hunger that was there around 1954, and this hunger was so much that there was no food for the children, and smart mothers used to get banana stems, and they put on the pot, and they put them inside, and they would boil them. So the children would come from grazing cows and goats and find that the pot is cooking. And the mother would say, just wait for it. And they will sleep without eating because the banana stems will never become food. But they would see it boiling all the time, then the fire would be done. And that is a good way to illustrate what has happened to this country, that we are so used to having those banana stems being boiled for us, and we look at them and hope that something will come out, but nothing comes out. So that in our political defense of our position, the only way to do is to throw mud at the other side. To an extent, if there was witch hunting in the previous regime, in saying that the Deputy President Gachagua had a corruption case, that Wambui, who is now the chair lady, I think, of Communication Commission of Kenya, if Joe Sang, who is back as the MD for whatever, if we had Geoffrey Mwangi, I'm mentioning names because they're in public domain and there is a Nation newspaper this morning. Yeah. If we are saying that Ben Chumo, after a lot of investigations by auditors at Kenya Power, a private parastatal, not government, parastatal, that was involved in 400 million case. If we're saying that the rest, Sonko and the ones who are there, Aisha Jumwa, are political, but some of these are not really directly political. So you wonder where do we connect political? If that was witch hunting, when you stand and tell us that the somebody actually is also in public domain, 1.47 trillion shillings, isn't that witch hunting?
Evidently
exactly the same. You're witch hunting a family. And let's remember, we can talk about many things, but the law that we've just quoted is very unfortunate because over the last 30 years, we've not had members of parliament who are sensitive to look at that and change it. And for information, that could even be changed by the cabinet secretary, because it's outdone its time. We have not had anybody look at that and change it for us, because we're so used to rhetoric, to creating, boiling these banana stems, as opposed to solving the issues that we have as a country. We can't kill witch hunting by witch hunting.
Fair enough.
So that the propaganda that was there, the propaganda that was there at Jacaranda, huge propaganda, useless propaganda, saying that 2 million votes and all that. We can't fight it by now bringing up another propaganda about taxes so that we can fight that. I think as a country, I pray to God in heaven that we start getting leaders who veer away from that and look at what it is and ignore it and give us solutions to move this country forward.
Fair enough. And so when you hear the former president then reacting to this, what exactly is happening? Because we say, oh, all of a sudden it looks like it's all well with him and, you know, now the boss, who is now the boss, because then they say it's out of the blessings of the current president that he is able to go to the different parts of Africa, you know, in these peace missions. So this back and forth, are we being played? Because then Uhuru comes out to respond. Then the Right Honorable Raila Odinga with his allegations, Chebukati on Raila Odinga, please, you'd better present some of this, you know, that you speak of within 7 days, otherwise I will take action. What is this game of threatening each other and, you know, back and forth?
One, Linda, let me say, and I want to tell all the viewers very clearly that we are not in the same school, and that's why we have opposition. And what I will blame is that I'll blame those authors of the current constitution who did it so it wise to have the official leader office retained. Because I think that if that particular office was retained then, it could have been solving a lot of issues where maybe that particular official leader could be in the floor of the house, able to castigate and respond to most of these areas that actually when he's boiling, he's not forced to go to public rallies to do this. Number two is that immediately then the government alluded that it will now start fight for these cartels, and especially in the area of coffee, tea and milk. That's another boiling area where those cartels also need to look for their survival. How do they survive? They must look for an opposition kind of political game that they can play. And I can tell you, Rita, this one is for sure that a lot of money has now been exchanging. And this is from those cartels. And also this element of tax paying. There are people who feel that, yes, now it has become mandatory to pay taxes. Then to me, that's a big issue, which most of those who are beneficiaries of the same can be able to fight back. But that does not mean this is not healthy to the country. Because this country, there's no way that we are going to shut politics. And there's no way we are going to say that actually opposition has no room to play politics. That is the game, and that's their daily job. Actually, they are idle. What they should be doing is to castigate the government. And William Ruto has alluded to this and accepted that, in fact, he is ready for the watchdog to be always commenting on areas where they feel that actually the things are not moving well. What I can say is that, in fact, we don't want to find a situation where still we'll push this country back to those hurting politics that can hurt our economy. Because if we are not going to balance it well, we may do it on a rough way where it will still our picking up of economic growth. Because then there is areas where you bring a lot of clamor, a lot of pressure, and investors will scare. And once the investors scare, then you are not going to see them here. The tourism will, foreign tourism will also scare. So we need to balance and find a way of how we can balance this. And my simple analogy to this is that if it feels that actually the opposition leader has no room to speak his mind, I think the head of state, it's not casted on a stone that he cannot open a window or a door for him to have a sitting. Then they can talk. That talk does not mean that it is a creation of what we call mukate or those other things. But they can still, because they are both Kenyans. And the interest of Kenya must be put in front. And I am sure that, in fact, when there is such a dialogue, a very healthy one, Raila can decongest and then he can be able to know, yes, what was going on. I have put it to that person and it is hand. So that at least we don't see these scenarios outside there.
And true to it, this aspect of scaring the investors is one very important thing. International relations, very, very important things. Just how we manage the activities in the country, because you do not want a country that is ungovernable just because a few of the people, or quite a large number of the people, will not allow you to, steer it forward. And perhaps that's the reason why over the years we've had these moments of handshake, whichever way they have called it. Whether then this should be accommodated is equally a question of wait and see. And Mheshimiwa, you'll forgive me that every time we're about to loop you in, we have to take a short break. Okay. So we take a quick short break and then we come back to you.
No problem.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Are you looking for a college that will shape your future career? At Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences, we offer advanced courses with personalized attention to our students. Come and get your diploma or certificate in cosmetology, hairdressing and beauty therapy, diploma in community development and social work, or certification in catering and accommodation operation. We also offer diploma in nutrition and dietetics and many more. All of our graduates have secured employment in the job market, while others have gone into entrepreneurship. What are you waiting for? Join us today. For more information on how you can enroll, visit us at the London Beauty Building, 5th floor, Taveta Road, Nairobi, or call us on 0726 031 109 or 0784 515 606. Facebook, Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences, or on Instagram, Candy College of Sciences. Our January intake is ongoing. Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences is the cutting edge college.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Since 2009, All Saints has strived to nurture confident, responsible, and ambitious young men into future leaders. Located on 20 acres in a serene and conducive environment, some 4 kilometers from Embu Town Center, it's a modest, cost-friendly education center. We are proud of our strong heritage of opening minds, unlocking talents, and building leaders. We prepare young men for a life dedicated to leadership, achievement, and service to the world. All Saints Senior Boys Academy. We make the difference.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
All right, the last laps of this very segment, Mheshimiwa says that he has to exit to run some other activities, but I'll allow him a chance to give us the parting shot, not before Honorable Kiruga Dhuku says something as pertaining to this. Mheshimiwa.
Thank you. Now, I think there is something that Mheshimiwa has said about some of these politicians meeting the president and maybe talking. I think there are some needs, some things that need to be put in the proper perspective. We cannot be using billions of shillings to hold elections. Then, after every election, someone comes up, draws tantrums, so that they find a way of getting to government. Then I think it beats the purpose of why we should be having elections. We can just be saying, let politicians go and sit somewhere, and they come up with Nusumukata governments. So, for once, and I want to fully support the president, when he says this time around, hakuna mambo ya nusu mkate. And we know the way you start, and we know where you are aiming.
But don't you agree with what Mheshimiwa says, that if the country is ungovernable? I remember you're talking about a household name, a person who enjoys numbers, and we all thought that people will not show up for Kamkunji. We thought that people will not show up for Jacaranda, but we all saw what happened.
Yes, now that is what we must bring to an end. Because if now we must take the bull by the horns, because this is a kasha that have evolved over time, that I'm defeated in elections, after elections, I get sponsors, they give me a few million shillings, I ferry, even if I want to ferry 50,000 or 100,000 people, people see I have a very big number of following, I force things to go my way. We are saying this, and that is why I categorically support the president, no nusumkati. In the interest of our country, and I want to support Honorable Gakuya on that, let us create, for example, and with me this has been my proposal over the years when we had those constitutional amendment processes. The leader of a serious opposition leader should have a seat in the National Assembly, so that we remove them from the streets, let them go and agitate what they believe in a constitutional manner. And that is why we are saying...
This is still about accommodating...
No, that is not even about Raila Odinga or someone like that. It is about...
accommodating an individual?
Not an individual. Someone who is a serious political player. You see?
I can't remember if I've heard this from Alex Mwathi. I'd love to understand whether he's of the idea of us having an official opposition office.
No, Linda, someone, if, for example, look at the elections we had. The president won with over 8 million votes. The other guy had slightly over 7 million votes. Someone who can command that following. It's only fair to accord that person a seat in the National Assembly so that he can be agitating for what he believes in a constitutional manner from the National Assembly. Otherwise, it's such a person who feels so entitled they will start going to the street and such a thing.
You know, this is my thinking, Alex Mwathi, that we tried that route some time back, and that is why we had an office of the opposition leaders and all that, and did not work. And maybe we said, well, if things are not working while we're on this route, why don't we try some adjustments and get to a different space? So what is this that will be going in round and round? And is the Right Honorable Raila Odinga untouchable, or maybe it's just the numbers and support he enjoys?
We keep going round in circles about what we need to do, and we keep regurgitating all the things that we have put aside.
Yeah.
The process of the Constitution took 20 years, from 1997 up to when it was propagated, 2010. With 3 or 4 organizations that tried to steer that baby to what it became. So Kenyan view has given over that period of time. And Kenyans saw it fit that when you win an election, you become the member of parliament, you become the member of county assembly, you become the governor, you become the president. And like the American election, you're supposed to retreat back to your party, and if you're a party leader, then lead the party from outside there in parliament. To an extent that we also created a fund for the political parties, so that if you belong to, for argument's sake, ODM gets a kitty. What's the purpose of that kitty? Is to maintain an office. What is that office? Is the head of that party to be able to be there. So that if you have a major majority, you don't feel disfranchised.
Yes.
You get funding to run your affairs as a party. Then you sponsor bills in parliament through the members who are elected through your party to be able to discuss and prosecute the issues that you have.
Yes. And in this
what we're talking about now is forming laws for the sake of individuals.
Yeah.
I think that's retrogressive, completely retrogressive. We must form laws that serve Kenyans, that serve the so-called Wanjiko, not laws that serve individuals. Because today Raila Odinga is here. None of us is immortal. All of us are mortal. Is it 5 years from now? Is it 10 years from now? He'll be gone. What do? We create another animal, another giant. You know, in the African mythology, you used to have giants that were being fed. Are we going to feed another giant so that we spend all our time trying to pacify it, trying to talk to it so that this giant doesn't eat us up, doesn't eat up the economy of this country? It's a kind of thing we need to take a step. And leaders, and we have to elect leaders here, must review this whole thinking. The thought that brought us here cannot take us in the future.
Yeah.
We must change our thinking today so that we can see the future. This opposition, this party, position of party opposition is being created for an individual, not for the future of this country.
Because if it's
this country will be here 100 years from now. 100 years from now.
Yes.
We will not need it. We'll have a Trump who is beaten by Biden. He can complain as much as he wants. He can go to court. He can do whatever he wants to do. But he does it from the position where he's seated as a member of the Republican. As a member of the Republican.
The law, yes, and we all understand the law. Look at the members of parliament elected on the other side, say the Azimio coalition, if you'd want to call it that way. We understand pretty much that one of the biggest reasons why you as Jubilee members could not leave Jubilee is because the law is clear, that in the event you decided to go to a different direction and it's clear, then there was need for a by-election, perhaps in your very own constituencies. And therefore, it's clear that, the members of the Azimio team could align to what the current government is today. But that does not stop them from holding this minority title. Aren't they enough to represent the voice of the minority such that we have to have one more person incorporated therein to speak on behalf of them?
Rita, the answer is yes. The minority has numbers to do what is necessary for them in the floor of the house and outside the house. The only danger area is where now there's that individual person who was the one reading the whole fraternity of that particular brigade is nowhere.
Why should they be somewhere? And that is
listen, let me finish. Because he was part of those who authored this constitution.
Okay.
But I am sure that inside his mind, in one way or the other, he was very sure then he's going to bridge and is going maybe to achieve, to become the next beneficiary of the presidency. President, probably it never happens. And therefore, he finds himself that he boxed himself, that this one was abolished, and at least is still sensible to make him relevant.
Yes.
Now, where are we? We are in this particular clause where our constitution is very clear that it allows picketing, it allows peaceful demonstrations, it does not close any political rally. That is how democracy is and all about. It's only that it becomes injured when there is violence in such meetings or in such kind of picketing or in such kind of peaceful demonstration. But the question is it going to be healthy if this is the business of the day, or is it going to make it hard for country to grow economically? Then the wise men is where there comes a time when they think that, yes, how do we at least tame this particular monster so that it can be able even to allow an environment where the business can be structured fairly and fair. But I can tell you that our law does not stop, neither from campaigning from day one to the last at the election.
In this case, if we're talking about families that really haven't, been paying tax, and like you rightfully put it, this law is not being crafted for the sake of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But in the event that they hasten the process and it gets him at this very point, again, you want to instill and you want to, accommodate an individual who's gone against the laws of the land as to the question of payment of tax to the people of Kenya, an individual that is toxic?
One thing that I will tell you, there are two people who are benefiting from taxpayers' coffee. These are Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. Because they have been treated as retired officers politically.
Which they are.
Raila enjoys...
Which they are.
No, he's campaigning.
Raila enjoys what we call retirement packages of his then Prime Minister's position. And Kalonzo Musyoka enjoys benefits of
Vice President.
being Vice President. Today, any single day they knock to the doors of politics, they must also keep that in their mind. That already they are beneficiaries of what we call retirement packages by the virtue of their former positions. And the law has to be very clear. Yes, if you enjoy this, in case tomorrow you get revert back to politics, then one has to stop. Because you cannot keep enjoying as a retired officer, and yet you start earning afresh from now as a sitting member. So those two areas are very two gray areas. But to summarize this, I think Raila can be comfortable that actually he's still enjoying a package. Kalonzo can be comfortable, he's still enjoying a package. And therefore, they should give this country a break. Yes, because they are enjoyers of taxpayers' money.
Money, as it is, whether they are in government or...
And therefore, they are very looking to, they can get to. And this is the tonic of every time, making sure that you make the government ungovernable. It's only you when you cook and that's when the food is good. Then this is wrong. And it's a narrative, I totally agree with Modi, that we must change this narrative. And we cannot be able to be seen creating positions for individuals. It is unfair. Because Raila cannot tell us he was not part of the elders of this constitution. He was. And if there was a lacuna, he could have realized that. At those time, long time. It is not today.
Mheshimiwa, I'll remind you that, and I'll release you. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us. We only left with 10 minutes. And
but before he goes...
This 10 minutes to this gentleman. Asante sana.
But before he goes,
Linda,
before he goes there...
You have a message for him,
Yeah, I have a message for him. Two issues. One, because this is issue of Middle East, we have been talking about it. I want to remind
that lady is still there.
He's still there, 8 years in a foreign bed.
So,
Mheshimiwa, I don't know whether I will do a petition.
Who is this? Can we know the names and exactly where she is?
Yes, a girl
so that we can check with Foreign Affairs.
Good. I'll do that, Mheshimiwa, because I will always talk out for that girl from there. She's called Mother Nyaguthi. I will always talk about her. The second issue, Mheshimiwa, I want to send you to the CS, internal security.
But you're a leader. Are you not?
Yeah, but he's a rank higher than me. There is an incident, and if that video was true, Mheshimiwa, and if it took place in Kenya, we want action. A lot of lady leaders have complained, a lot of our people have complained. It was so evil. There is this girl who was being held by grown men.
Yeah.
She was being, do you know she was whipped until she stopped screaming?
Yeah, that was.
And
that
they
was
were
bad.
whipping her.
A young girl.
Yes, we have the video.
You know, they are whipping her. She doesn't have other garments. It was an inhuman treatment. Those people who did that must be used as an example that no molestation of such magnitude should take place in this republic. That was evil beyond, it was so diabolical. So I think that on that...
Noted, member, and kindly forward me that particular clip.
Yes,
I'll be able to forward it to the CS.
Yes, I'll do that.
For action.
Yes.
Right.
Kindly.
Thank you so much. And I would want to believe that it's still in the CS, but it needs a lot of noise so that this then is addressed. Mheshimiwa, you're at liberty. Thank you so much. And yes, engineer, I don't even know how to how we wind this up, but yes, we are in this very space. Perhaps just to close it on the question of education. I keep talking about education because it's at the heart of every aspect of development in a nation. If we have to have a Kenya tomorrow, we have to get this one right. There's not a single day in the longest time I know we have lacked a story on education on the front page of all the papers, the stories that we have carried ourselves. We have our junior secondary students joining in, and it's a bit of anxiety and confusion therein. We have those ones that are joining Form 1 next week on the 6th, and we have lots of adjustments happening. To imagine that even at this point, teachers could storm the employer's office, you know, to seek the question of transfers because they say that, well, our families are as well going down because of this delocalization thing. Just where are we headed? And how do we then get to a space where, at least if not looking at the future, then this very time, this very year, we get it right?
One thing is definite, like you said, that education is key to this nation's progress, because a lot of materials that we need to do will need you to go to school to study what others have done so that you can improve on them. Yeah. You notice that over the years we become consumers of what everybody else has done, and we've done very little to be able to unlock the potential that is in creating new thoughts, new ideas, new products, new everything. Yeah. And that will only come when we have a good education system. And I must admit that in the change of education system from the 844 to the 666 something.
So the confusion is there.
Confusion. The people that were in government thought wise to do that. And the reason they were doing that, in my opinion and in what I've read, is to create a system that is more practical, that we move away from the theoretical. You remember, even those skill-oriented, to an extent that we even move away from national exams where the top student is made to, like he's a king, and anybody who got a D was nothing. Yet we know in real life, the Ds made the industry that employ the A students.
Yeah, and ironically.
Over a period of time. Yeah. And education being that important, one of the things that I canvassed about last year was about having the junior secondary transiting to the secondary schools that existed, because it was going to be an impossible task. To an extent, because I'm a BOM in some schools, then it meant that we were planning to receive double intake, while already we're not able to manage, because these are government schools, to manage the students that we had because of the increase of the numbers. And we're concerned about that, and I'm happy that the committee that was formed saw it wise to have the junior secondary in primary school. The junior secondary is, again, a lot of hullabaloo, but in my mind, and in reading the documentation, I saw a situation where if students were in, for argument's sake, Buruburu Primary School, they went back to their junior secondary school in Buruburu Primary School. Classroom will be provided, teachers will be provided, so they do it in the same space, so that you don't have this movement and transfer. Yeah. But as being Kenyans, we've already started wanting to move our students as children all over and creating a confusion. The bigger confusion for me is that in the same compound, you'll have class 8 in primary school and class 7 in junior secondary.
Interesting.
It's a very It's a very interesting scenario.
Because there's going to be a class 8 for
very,
sure,
very
and it's
interesting.
supposed to transition.
Those are in primary schools, and we are in secondary school. With different uniform, because I've seen most schools have come up with a uniform for junior secondary.
Oh my goodness.
So the class 8 is older, that within the student fraternity, this year.
Yes.
I just hope and pray that sense will come into those that are involved in education, that this transition is not handled where it injures the students. There, I don't know, there is the time of Matiang'i or I know it wasn't Magoha. Professor will not do that. It might have been Matiang'i.
It was Matiang'i.
To delocalize. To an extent, you needed to move the teachers from their locality, which made sense in that if teachers were from Chinga, they were educated in Chinga and taught in Chinga, it's very difficult to influence the students positively. Yeah. But sense was not put in. You had people who were in their 56, 57, 2 years to retire, being moved across counties. That didn't make sense. And it's something that those that are in charge must look at, and if you have to do selective return, you got to do it. Because if somebody is 57, 58, why are you moving from Kiambu to Makueni, honestly?
So now we have to travel over the weekend.
It doesn't make sense. And I understand. The thinking is that you still have 2 years of work before you retire. But look, please don't do that.
Have to move.
And I hope that the ministry can be able to look at that. Right. But there are many issues. And I'm happy I'm seeing a situation where any issue that comes up, I think those that have been given the responsibility are reacting. I want to give our viewers a feeling of comfort that it looks like they're able to churn, because it's a difficult situation they find themselves in. They're able to churn out. One of the key problems, again, that has come up, Linda, is that the junior secondary school are saying they don't have enough teachers. Yeah. And you know, the TSC process is a long one. They have recruited 30,000 teachers. Until they get recruited, I pray and I seek indulgence from the headmasters of those schools to be able to work with what they have as they wait for these teachers, so that our students don't suffer.
Fair enough. Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, Linda, you see, when we talk of such serious issues, and we have other people telling us to go to the streets, we know very well that is the disruption they want. They want to cause disruption to these serious matters that the government is trying to address. And that is why we are saying, for once, it must come out very clearly. And I'm urging this government to hold firm. Let nobody ever again try to use other hard methods to get relevance or to get into government. Let it be done once and for all that we are in a democratic country. If you lose, you lose. Yeah. Right? So let the government continue taking care of these serious things. Because you see, like now I've seen the former ministers, they are coming out, all castigating, I don't know if you do this, if you do that. But there is nothing cast in stone in this world. It doesn't mean things must be done the way you want. Yeah. A government comes with its own policies that it believes can best serve the people of a nation. And that is what Kenyans gave to this government, the mandate to organize the way the people are governed. So, of course, there are those few challenges. There are called teething problems, like my brother here is pointing out. But at least, it is transitional. They are necessary. They must be done. Yeah. For example, now, like this junior secondary, when it is domiciled in primary schools, Standard 7 is in secondary, Standard 8 is in primary. Okay.
It will be interesting.
It is interesting, but now it have to be done. And because there is that transition that is going on, maybe in 1-2 years, things will settle down. You've seen that the school calendar has just come back to its proper form. Yeah. We used to have the year starting in June or somewhere like. Yeah. So I believe things will work for the betterment. We have a government in place that is really determined. One thing you have to give to this government, Linda, is that it is very much determined to change the way things are done. You have seen even the government saying they want to eliminate in all government systems the issue of paying in cash. They want everything to be digital.
And that one is another Pandora's box, but we hope
no,
the government can manage it well.
Yeah, it can. And once that happens, Linda, this means every payment you make, every transaction you make will be captured electronically. And once that is done, the chances of pilfering public coffers will reduce significantly. I will
tell you why it's a Pandora's box, but because time is not